Hi, friends. My name is host Eric. I'm the host of Talking with Famous People. And this video is called Typology When Values Conflict. What do I mean by that? What sort of important meaning am I making when I'm saying that? What gleanings can you glean from it? Well, just that functions have multiple values that might correlate with a given function. And the only way to really do any kind of meaningful self-report test is to come up with situations or ask the question of what to do when they conflict. So obviously everybody values justice, everybody values fairness, everybody values reliability, everybody values effectiveness, everybody values creativity and all those things. So if you're trying to figure out, well, what's a person's type based on their values, you have to have them pitted against each other. Which are you likely to prioritize when they conflict? The other thing is you have to account for whether it's an absolute value or an instrumental value. And that can be a challenging, an additional complication that can make it challenging, I guess is the best way to put it. I'm really pleased by the amount of positive thumbs that I got on my NI how to type for NI or how to type for SI video that I published earlier. So that's kind of neato. Anyway, I'm feeling slightly at a loss right now. You know, I was playing around with this drum beat here, but I just realized I've got something else I need to work on in the mix, which is a Kyra thing, which I had forgotten about almost. But I was playing around with this funk beat that I got from YouTube. It's a pretty good beat. I like it. Hi, Cloud. How you doing? Do you like this beat that we're using? It's a funk beat. What happened? You're here to proclaim your superiority? Oh, cool. Superiority at what? At mini golf? Are you superior to what? And in regards and specifically about what? So superior to whom about what are the relevant questions there to say that if you're going to claim you're superior, you know. It's comparative. You're superior to something in some area of measurement. Values, what are they? Well, see, that's the thing. Values are basically tendencies to prioritize certain kind of what you might call is metrics, but it's not exactly just metrics. So it's more like a frame of reference. So a value can be, first of all, values come in two kinds. They're instrumental or absolute values. Instrumental values, you want to do well at the thing because it's necessary for you to get where you're going. Absolute values are the destination, essentially. So when we talk about functions and when we talk about values and cognitive functions, we're talking about already a thorny bag of metaphors, right? But there's good reasoning behind it nevertheless. So if you take NI, why do I say that it correlates with values about the truth, that which is determinant? You might say it correlates with relevancy to some extent, but really NI is more about determinants. SI is about relevancy. What's the difference? Well, determinants is which factor is most salient in deciding a matter. So if you can take bag A, which has 6 pieces of worthless crap and 1 bar of gold, or bag B, which has 7 items, each of which is somewhat desirable, but none of which is remotely as desirable as a bar of gold, well, then that's determinant. Is it relevant that if you choose the bar of gold thing, then you'll miss out on this wonderful relatively high price hair conditioner or something? Yes, I will miss out on it, but it's nevertheless not the determinant quality. No, Claude, I didn't define every abstract concept with 2 sentences. I asked you superior to what? About what? Like you say, this is the superior cheese. You mean it's better than the other cheese that's available. What I'm saying is you're better at what than what. It's not defining every abstract concept with 2 sentences. It's asking you a simple question. If I were to tell you, Cloud, I'm taller, you'd naturally ask, than whom? No, you did talk about superiority. You said, quote, I am here to proclaim my superiority. That's the exact quote of what you said. Oh, and that moment passed, so it no longer exists. So for a Cloud, what's valuable is not, for example, truth or salience or relevance. What's valuable for him is impactfulness of the language. As long as language is impactful, and he tests the impactfulness by seeing what kind of response it gets. You know, if it evokes a response, it's successful. If it fails to evoke a response, it's unsuccessful. To Cloud, it doesn't matter if it validates as most defensible, because defensibility is considered a waste of time kind of thing, you know? So, but anyway, as far as value correlates go, so Cloud says he values novelty or new relevant information. Cloud does value novelty, but he mostly values, as far as the new relevant information goes, that's 4th slot NI. He's always looking for a new, shiny new truth that's going to clarify things, not quite being aware that sometimes you have to fit truths together into composite truths. Sometimes you have to retain truths. But because all these truths are expressed in words, especially Clouds are willing to jettison 4th slot truths and replace them with new ones all over and over and over again. Now, it's not an absolute value, extroverted intuition, but it's absolutely an instrumental value here in terms of interacting in this environment. In other words, it is instrumentally necessary for you to do any at least sort of well in order for you to get your outcome of impact. Cloud, we've gone over this a million times before. So the thing is, impact is a value. Determinantness is a value. Efficacy is a value, and they're slightly different. Like whether or not something's effective or impactful are very different things. If something's impactful, it just means it has a large amount of harms/benefits. If something is effective, it means it attained the outcome you want. And those are different things. I mean, Cloud, you're definitely not an intuitive. And there's not an insult or anything. It's not a criticism of your anything. It's how it is. You are a sensor. You are an SC-DOM. You're an ESFP. You had it right from at the very beginning. First thing you told me was you were an ESFP, and you were absolutely right about it. Well, like in this environment, impactfulness is measured by quantity and strength of response. So if you're not being responded to much, people are kind of ignoring you and talking about other things, the topics, the words themselves are not interesting to you. What's interesting to you is the engagement with other people. There's, again, nothing wrong with that. But if people are saying important words, it doesn't matter to you if they're not responsive to you or addressing you or engaging you directly. So you're not looking for the words. You're not looking to words to learn things from them. You're looking to words to engage with other people. You wouldn't take it as an insult, but you take it as a lie. You take what as a lie? I'm not lying to you, Cloud. Lying would record mean that I was willfully misrepresenting something to you. I'm representing the truth about cognitive functions as best as I know it, and the correct conclusion about you as best as I can tell based on the data that I have. It's not a lie, even if I'm wrong. It's not a lie. I'm not willfully trying to deceive you. I'm saying, based on everything we know about cognitive functions, based on how they manifest, based on how other people manifest, so what any looks like in an any user versus any on a back slot, and lots of other reasons, I've concluded the conclusion I've drawn. It may not be correct ultimately. It may prove to be that 0.1% chance that it's wrong is in fact the case. But the longer I know you, the less likely it becomes that I'm wrong. And I understand that you don't like that truth. I understand that you think it's a subjective truth, even though it's objectively justified. Remember, objectivity and subjectivity are about two different kinds of things, Cloud. But if I even bother with this, you're going to say, see, you have to define everything. Yeah, you do have to define everything if you want to communicate with words for a communicative purpose. If you want to communicate for an impactful purpose, you don't. And that's fine. That's why you do things the way you do. Of course it matters if you're willful. If I believe I'm telling you the truth, but I'm simply wrong, then I'm not lying to you. I'm just mistaken. Sometimes it's possible for a person to be neither wrong nor mistaken, but simply misspeak, say the wrong word, or the one they intended. I'm going to say Julie, not Julianne. You know, I am not proposing my individual opinions as objective truths. I'm presenting arguments that you're not able to engage with on a defensibility metric. So you can't tell whether it's objective or not. You don't have that skill, and that's okay. It's not something everybody has to have. It's not the most important thing in the world, you know. No, Jason Bloodline is not good. I'm not presenting my individual opinions as objective truths. I'm saying objectively, this is the most defensible position based on the evidence we have, the arguments I'm making, and for lots of reasons. Yeah, and of course, I'm correct about that. But I do understand, Cloud, that you don't want words to be determinate about things. It's that fourth slot NI. You don't like the determinateness. You're not comfortable with it, with the polar TI. Fourth slot NI, polar TI means you don't want words to meaningfully make progress, because that means you're locking shit down and eliminating certain meanings and accepting other meanings. You're being facetious, are you? Well, no, they're not defensible to anybody. They're defensible within the frame of argumentation. And that's a universal objective sort of data. In other words, we can all evaluate these arguments and determine not what's true, Cloud, but what's the best affirmation to make given the data that we have. That's all we can do. And that's the sort of claims I make. You don't like those claims because they're quite determinate. I mean, it's like, yeah, this is the best conclusion to draw given the data that we have based on the system that we all understand. And if we are able to think it through logically, we will realize that Eric's correct. Probably. Not 100%, you know. I've never even talked to you, so this is based on just your interaction in the chat. But nevertheless, I'm quite convinced you're an ESFP. And, you know, the thing is, you come here arguing like an ESFP over and over again, and I have to explain why is Cloud not listening to me? Why is Cloud not responding to me, to various people, not just myself? And the answer is always the same. Well, it's this 4-slot NI, 7-slot TI thing, the way he relates to words, his sort of contempt for words persistence across time. You say one thing and you go 180 degrees, you say some other random thing totally unrelated, and it's as though the thing before you it said didn't even ever exist, didn't even stay on the flow. Of course, things do stay on the flow. And if you meaningfully communicate, you're communicating about an idea that starts here and moves here through multiple steps. But the way that you ideate, it goes here, here, and then you're off to a new idea. No, I'm talking about you, Cloud. I'm describing the way your mental processes work to you. You're saying this is a subjective opinion. It's not. It's an objective description of the way that your argumentational processes at least work. Now, it's a presumption that they represent your mental processes. Almost certainly they do. But it's true you could be faking over a long period of time, consistently, persistently. That's true. You could. Those are all process. No, I do, Cloud. That's the problem I'm saying. You don't understand what a mental process is. That's why you're not accepting what I'm saying to you. Argumentational approach is pretty concrete and very easy to determine, point out. I can give you examples, blah, 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 right? A person either argues out a node only so far before switching nodes. That tells us a lot about the person if you have enough data. What I'm saying is the way that you switch nodes right away, called shifting ground, and are unable to or unwilling to actually argue out any of the nodes once the communication becomes meaningful, which is to say you're making progress with the communication, which is eliminating some ideas, embracing others, and doing work off of that process, then you're out the door. You're immediately out the window onto the next thing. That's textbook ESFP. There's nothing ENFP about that. An ENFP would engage ideationally would riff back and forth progressively in a communicative fashion, in an ideational fashion like that. That's not what you're doing. And then of course, whenever I win the point and point something out that's pretty determinate and pretty decisive, you say, yeah, but I'm not really trying. Fortunately, I'm not evaluating what you're saying. I'm not evaluating how hard you're trying. I'm not evaluating your honesty. I'm evaluating the actual processes you demonstrate over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, over and over again, and don't vary at all. They're consistently the same argumentational processes you demonstrate every time you're here. So, and I'm telling you what that means. You don't have to believe me. You probably don't, because you don't like things that are true by way of language. It doesn't mean you hate the truth. It just means you don't like the way that language can contain and make truth absolute by making it conditional. And that's totally fine. You don't have to like that. But the problem, of course, is, Cloud, that if you want to actually engage meaningfully around here, you're going to have to try to make some progress with language. You can't just come in here and continually say how smart you are and how everybody else is stupid and how people are so obsessed with words, they don't even get anything and all that kind of shit, and think that you're doing anything other than just being provocative. You certainly can't call that NE. You know? No, I agree. Your fourth thought intuition, it shows in your refusal to accept when things are determinate, and that means it sticks across time. So that's a separate vector. You're right, but you've ignored that I've already covered that vector. And the other thing is, Cloud, I mean, look, I've engaged with lots of NFPs, INFPs, ENFPs, and their extrovert intuition engages with mine very differently than yours does. Okay, and this is a personal experience. This is anecdotal. I'm telling you what my experience is. That's true. But remember, when you're talking about somebody like me, experience matters some, because I've typed so many hundreds of people now. Well, that's why I'm explaining to you that you're not an extroverted intuitor. You're not an extroverted intuition dog. If you think you are, you have to ignore the fact that you're unlike every other extroverted intuition dog that I've ever met. That you don't intuit cooperatively with me. You don't riff off of me. You just negate or provoke. And once once I engage the idea, you're on to the next provocational thing because it's no longer interesting to you to follow down the ideation. You're not interested in the intuitive part. You're just interested in the sensing part. Well, you do have more experience of cloud than you. That's true. But you don't have more experience typing cloud objectively than I do. You have almost no experience typing cloud objectively because it's not in your wheelhouse. I, on the other hand, am an expert and have typed you objectively, which means I don't have a preference. It doesn't matter to me which type you are. I don't have a dog in this race, as they say. So you can trust I'm unbiased. You can trust I'm experienced enough. If you were able to do the parsing, you'd be able to see that it's logically sound. And if you were more valuing of NI, you'd see that it is determinate. But because of your cognitive function stack, you're unlikely to ever just do anything except say, well, that's just your opinion. And you just take your opinion as though it's fact. And you don't know what you're talking about. And I know me better than you. And you can't put me in a box. And words don't matter. And a bunch of other shit like that. That's just going to be your MO forever. And the reason is because you're not an intuitive. You're an ESFP. And there's nothing wrong with that. Again. No, I am arrogant, perhaps. And I'm very confident. That doesn't mean I'm overconfident. And I don't need to worry about things like confidence influencing me because I'm objective in my calculations. It's my nature. I can't help it, Just like you can't help being you, I can't help being me. Just like you can't help being wrong, I can't help being right, What you don't want to be an ESFP, obviously, Cloud, because every time I tell you are one, you resist the notion. You try to change your type every couple of weeks. I mean, that's an example of 4th slot NI. Truths don't stick with you. Sure, you want a video debate me, Cloud? We can go into whereby and do it. You're not resisting lies. I'm not lying. You've ignored everything anybody said about lies. This is what I mean by you not being intuitive. There was actual meaningful information given to you about lying. That it involves willfulness. That it involves knowledge of distruth speaking. No truths. Your own truths don't stick with you, Cloud. That's why you change your type every 2 weeks. Not even my truths don't stick with you. Your truths don't stick with you. What's important doesn't stick with you. It varies from moment to moment. One day it's the most important thing is meditation. The next day it's the most important thing is tantric. The next day the most important thing is retaining your semen. The next day, it's like your truths don't stick, not mine. No truths stick with you. Not very well. That's something that will be developed. That's something that will be developed over time. As you get older, you'll learn that some truths are worth holding on to and some ought to be jettisoned. The truths of the moment, your passionate belief in this or that in the moment, is the truths that you should jettison. And the real truths, the ones that have lasting power, are the ones that, somebody who's equipped to do so has thought through. So when I say you're an ESFP, that's the truth. I could be wrong, but I'm definitely telling you the truth about my assessment of your type. And I'm also telling you the truth when I say, realistically, objectively, my assessment of your type is probably the most reliable of anybody's. So that's how it is. I could give you more objective reasons as to why you are an ESFP, but those never satisfy you because you're not objective. And that's okay. Again. Okay. So do you still believe in dimensions as well? Like, how many dimensions are you retaining your semen in? 3, 5, 7, 10? Or is that just low dimensional thinking on my part? Clyde, no, you don't. You've typed yourself how many different types, Cloud? Let's just go back to that simple example. Let's just talk about your type. Now, you've changed your type. I can't even count how many times. Why? Send me serious. You type some meme. I see. Okay. All right. Well, that's what they call special pleading, Cloud. Special pleading. So I didn't refuse to accept it. I withheld judgment. See, I don't operate like you, Cloud. I don't believe or disbelieve. I withhold judgment until I've determined what's correct. Withholding judgment is not refusing to accept something. It's saying, I need to parse this out before I formally agree with you. Okay? Right, because, well, here's the thing. When I first encounter somebody, that person is going to almost always have a very difficult time convincing me of anything. Why? Because I know enough to not trust their self-typing, and I don't know enough yet to type them. Now, what's happened, of course, is I've gotten to interact with you a whole bunch, Cloud. So over time, I've gotten increasingly certain that you're an ESFP. In fact, I'm as close to certain as I can possibly be without actually talking to somebody that you are an ESFP. Fortunately, we can rely on this not just because of all the various great reasons I give, but also because what I just said. I'm prone to withholding judgment until I'm as sure as I can be. And then once I'm, sure, I can check it. I'm still willing to go back if I'm proved wrong or something. But as we continue to battle about it, everything confirms what I'm thinking. You keep behaving as though. Remember, I'm doing process analyses. I'm not analyzing what you're saying, but how you're saying it, how you're going about doing your business. So you're not gaming it at all, no matter what your intentions are. It doesn't matter if you're trying hard or you're just screwing around or what. It doesn't matter. So you are an ESFP. We have lots and lots and lots of reasons to believe that. And if you can't understand those reasons, that's fine. But what you should at least believe is that I'm almost certainly true at this point because I spent so much time interacting with you. I'm so unbiased about it. I have no horse in the race. And I'm an expert with lots and lots of experience. So even if you don't want to focus on the actual good reasons to believe you're an ESFP, you can use those TE heuristic reasons instead, and you'll still conclude you're an ESFP. I'm not trying to change your opinion, Cloud. I'm just helping to keep the flow clean. We're just keeping the flow of argumentation clean here. I'm not going to let you muddy the facts of the world by continually stating things like you're not an ESFP. I'll correct you when you misstate that. Cloud thinks he is, but he's not, and here's why. You're a good person off of whom to explain things like that. And you prompt a lot of explanation because new people when they come in here, they try to engage with you, and they're always their response is always the same at first, after a little while, which is, "What's wrong with Cloud?" Well, the answer is nothing's wrong with Cloud. He's just not an intuitive, and he doesn't engage with ideas in the same way that we do. So, nothing wrong with you. That's just how you are. I'm not lying, Cloud. You keep ignoring what I'm saying. You say you won't change your opinion. Well, I mean, if you ignore all of my words, of course you won't. Of course you won't ever change your opinion. That's very ESFP of you. I've already explained to you that I'm not lying to you, and you've not addressed that at all. In no sane world can I be successfully correctly described as lying to you. The worst you could possibly accuse me of would be expressing too much certainty, given that there's a 0.01 chance that I'm wrong or something. It would be a really narrow critique like that. I don't know. No, Cloud, you don't let me think whatever I want or whatever. I'm not believing things. Again, I'm just describing to you the reality. Okay? So it's not what I think, what you think, our opinion. You're not letting me think anything. I'm not trying to change what you're thinking. I don't care if you incorporate this into your thinking or not. But what I am doing instead of what you think I'm doing is I am articulating an accurate description of things. Well, I love Cloud too, Jason Blood. Just because he and I bash heads a lot doesn't mean I don't love him. He's an ESFP. He's going to come in and bash heads with me unavoidably. He's in an ecosystem he doesn't respect. Well, that's your superpower, ESFP. That is your superpower, is that as far as you're concerned, your perception of reality is yours alone. And what you want to be true is true. And it's unaffected by words. That's an impressive superpower. It's what made Naruto insist on he's going to be Hokage no matter how many pieces of evidence to the contrary there might be. And in life, that's hugely important. No, you're not NE at all. There's nothing NE about that at all. That's not remotely extroverted intuition. Yes, well, look, Cloud. When you say your perception of reality is yours alone and mine is unaffected since I value mine more, what you're saying is I value my FI a lot, and intuitive ideas are for FISE purposes, and they shouldn't be judged on intuition metrics. That's what you're saying there. Your perception of reality is yours alone. In other words, meanings don't matter. Meanings don't matter. Meanings are not universal. That's not an intuitive statement. That's a censor statement. Because and mine is unaffected. Your reality is unaffected by my words and meaning. Why is that? Because you're not an intuitive. You're a censor. You're an ESFP. You are the most immune type of all to words and meaning of any sort. So that makes perfect sense. It's not extroverted intuition. Extroverted intuitors are subject to words and meaning a lot. They are affected by words and meaning. Words matter a lot to them. They ideate all the time about which words they should embrace, whether they're FI or TI. But you don't care about words. Your reality is unaffected by my words or anyone else's words. And that's your superpower as an ESFP. No, you're not an intuitive. You're not an intuitive. You may be intuitive as a human being. You may have instances of good intuition, but you are not an intuitive personality type. You are not an ENFP. You are an ESFP. I'm not saying you're not intuitive in your dealings with the world. I'm saying you're not an intuitive in typology. Because intuitive in one's dealings with the world is situational. And every human being has good intuition in certain moments about certain things. But that certainly doesn't mean that every human being is an intuitive. And in fact, probably half the people who are typed as intuitives are not. Maybe more. You know? It doesn't matter to him, Aaron. It doesn't matter what objectively his type is. For him, it's a matter of his ontology. It's something he chooses. He sees type as being as arbitrary as race is. Race is, of course, actually arbitrary, but type is not. Cloud, no one who knows you knows anything about typology, except me, probably. You're talking about people in life that know you in real life. They certainly don't know anything about typology, right? No, Cloud, I'm not. I didn't talk this into a big ocean. This is another reason why you are not an intuitive. No ENFP would say you talk this into a big ocean of arguments. You when you're talking too much in words. No, they'd have just as many words and talking values as I do. It just wouldn't be logic. It would be authenticity. I didn't say nobody knows anything about typology except me. I said your in real life friends probably don't know anything at all about typology. But see, Claude, this is the thing. You say things like that all the time, right? Nobody knows anything about typology but me, Eric. Of course, I didn't say that. And words do matter. What I actually said matter, not just your feelings about what I say. Can we please talk about something else? Yeah, let's talk about something else. I agree. No, I didn't say that. I didn't, Cloud, I didn't say nobody knows anything about typology except me. I never said that. I do enjoy my life. I enjoy it a great deal. I even enjoy this. I even enjoy this. I am an educator, and whether you want to or not, Cloud, it's unavoidable that you're going to learn some things around here. So I do my best to teach it in as successful way as I can, given the fact that we're fundamentally at odds in terms of our values in life. That's just going to be the case because we have different stacks and understand the world so differently, Cloud doesn't even argue semantics. He just says that he just makes the argument. Well, I can see what you're saying. He just goes, that's just semantics about everything, even when it's not just semantics, right? Sometimes things are just semantics. If I say, let's take a ship, and you say, let's take a boat, and we're arguing about whether we take a ship or a boat, well, that's just semantics. We're both talking about the same thing. But most of the time, when Cloud wants to say, like, well, it's just semantics, it's not just semantics at all. I know you don't want to learn anything from me, Cloud, but you unavoidably will learn things here, is what I'm saying. Whether you want to or not, whether I want to teach them or not, you will learn better, though, when I teach them better. Well, I mean, that's what we do here, Claude. We push narratives. We say which narratives are correct, which narratives are false, and why. So if you want all narratives to be equal, squishy, nothing things, then you're going to be disappointed. Okay, you don't like lies, but we've already established that I'm not lying. I'd like to hear more exactly the difference between intuition and all humans versus intuition and typology. Okay, well, what I'm saying about that is, before I really learned much of anything about cognitive functions, I thought my ESFJ wife was an ENFJ. And I thought my ESTJ dad must be an ENTJ. When I was just reading type descriptions, that's what I thought. My dad actually has a PhD in philosophy of all things and is very intellectual. Like, he's interested in intellectual things. He's interested in politics, stuff like that. So if I were to just base my understanding of my dad on type descriptions, then I would think, well, he must be an ENTJ. He seems like an intuitive, right? He's into intuitive things. And he can, in fact, be quite intuitive about things that he knows a lot about. So, like, he was watching Fox News, and got mad because somebody made a poor argument that it didn't really make any sense. It was a defense of Trump's something or other executive power, and it was inconsistent with something else. I don't know. Well, my dad brought it up at dinner and noted that this was nonsense. It was an intuitive insight of sorts, and not his normal way of responding to stuff. He tends to respond to stuff by not talking about whether it's true or false, but rather the sort of practical implications of it, what it's going to do as far as which policies are likely to be manifest, which policies not, sort of a predictive outcome plus relating to his own personal interests approach. But he can be quite intuitive sometimes about ideas, certainly about subjects he knows a lot about, such as war or politics. And he can be quite intuitive when it comes to me as well. Like he seems to be one step ahead of me a lot of times. Of course, he's my benefactor and I'm his beneficiary type. So that's not really that surprising. He's one step ahead of me. His SE demonstrative tends to disrupt my plans in ways that seems like he anticipated everything. I can't really fool him, pull one past him. He's certainly intuitive about anything unusual going on, right? Like if I'm up to something, he notes changes to the regular thing and intuits what's going on at some point. So that's what I mean by being intuitive in a human who's being intuitive as a descriptor in life. You can say, well, that was an intuitive thought, that was an insightful thought, or that was an intuitive observation. And different subject matters are things where people might be more or less prone to those kind of intuitive observations. So everybody uses intuition, and everybody is at some point aptly described as intuitive. But it doesn't mean that everybody is an intuitive. To be an intuitive means to be meaning focused first and foremost. And whether it's about multiple meanings and the most novel meanings, which is extroverted intuition, or whether it's about the singular meaning that's most determinate, introverted intuition, then that's the kind of frame that the intuitive is going to manifest across the board. So Rachel is a knower, and she's an intuitive knower. So she's an IDOM, and what that means is as she goes through life, she approaches everything through this frame of NI, even if it's not appropriate to it. So if she's talking about, she's getting better with her SI. I mean, the thing is, you can train yourself to be more consciously aware of areas that are natively unconscious simply by learning some workarounds or heuristics. So, or just by having a model. Rachel has FE tool, and she gets to see me modeling SI style behavior a lot, which you might call self-care hygiene. Things like how I get myself ready to go to sleep. I don't just Rachel has her way of getting ready to go to sleep, but she's got to witness me sort of stretching, yawning. She started stretching more a little bit now and yawning more than she did at first, just by sort of FE imitation. It's kind of a heuristic workaround to her backside SI. But eventually, if you spend enough time around somebody who's attending by that manner, you get more of an intuitive grasp of what that manner of attention is like. You're never going to be able to actually manifest it as a dominant manner of attention for yourself, but you can apply accordingly. So actual intuitives, INTPs, INFJs, ENTPs, ENFJs, ENFPs, INFPs, ENTJs, INTJs, actual intuitives are rarer than the stats would suggest based on my observations of how those internet tests in general pop people out anyway. And also based on some observations about MBTI's self-reporting approach. Self-reporting is always going to pop out more intuitives because the descriptors of intuitives are more desirable descriptors of self than the descriptors of sensors. Sensors in general the sort of typology conceit is that sensors are ordinary and intuitives are special. That sensors are simple and intuitives are complex. Of course, that's not true. It's only true that intuitives are more engaged in meaning, and it has a substantial impact in their life, and it can even be very defining in their life. Like, I think intuitives are probably, well, at least, I don't know if this is true or not, but in general, like, let's say you have a big problem with your partner because they said something mean, some truth you don't want to hear. Maybe they said something like, well, your nose is a little big, Eric, or something like that. And you don't want to hear that truth, so you've got hurt feelings and you're carrying that around or something. So an intuitive is going to be bothered by that for potentially, many years. But certain kinds of sensors might too, like ISFJs, or and certain kinds of intuitives might not be bothered by it for long, but they'll incorporate it much more into their meaning. It's going to have much more substantial impact on their ontology. So ENFJs, ENTJs probably won't remember the specifics of it, but if it's a substantial enough meaning and it links enough to their being, they're going to internalize it to some extent. The advice that ENTJs and ENFJs have of letting go of past limiting narratives, moving forward through action and stuff, that's consistent with the most sensing of the intuitives, which is to say they're the least impacted in terms of limiting ways by meanings because they have extra sensing in the third slot. That's a long answer to a short question. My native language is Esperanto. It's my native language. My native language is Latin and Esperanto. Or my native languages, and ancient Greek. I come from a family that randomly switched between ancient Greek, Latin, and Esperanto as their native way of speaking. Of course, without any preserved audio, pronunciation was a crapshoot. Everybody pronounced things differently. It was really hard to learn those languages. Esperanto proved the easiest, but of course, the verbs people used changed to mean the same thing based on which Romantic language they drew from. And then I saw William Shatner acting in Esperanto, and I knew, finally, my day had arrived. It was time for me to learn English. That was when I was 1 year old. All that happened. It seems like I'm a native English speaker. I basically am, because I mastered Latin, ancient Greek, and Esperanto by the age of 1. Then decided to learn English. I've since forgotten those languages, unfortunately. Right, but the thing is, Cloud, that is such a misrepresentation of S and N. You are not an S or an N, okay? Nobody is an S or an N. They are an intuitive type because of their cognitive function stack. It's ridiculous to say that. That's the sort of shit I'm saying is bullshit. Why people have so much trouble with their type is in part because of ridiculous things like that. Okay, Cloud, I would agree with you that your time here on the internet would suggest you like to engage with other people using language. Okay. And like a lot of ESFPs and everybody else, whenever you use language, you engage somewhat about some ideas at least. Since you're spending time on the internet, that means you're not going to be able to do SE stuff. And you might say, well, why don't I prefer to do SE stuff? Because the idea of what SE stuff is misunderstood. This, what you're doing here, this is an example of, it's a great example of SE on the external metaphysical plane. You might say, well, why do I spend so much time on the external metaphysical plane? Well, because that's really where life is nowadays, you know? That's where it is. And since that's where life is, that's where you're going to be too, you know? I'm tired of seeing people typing people based on type descriptions and stereotypical understanding of types and or letter dichotomies. Also, they don't get the cognitive functions. They think SE is this, and yeah, it's like, no. Extroverted sensing is an action function, and it also frames a person's affect and behavior. So, the reason you engage with people the way that you do, the reason you're not sitting there quietly reading from everybody else's chat and going, "Ooh, I like this idea. I can take this idea." The reason you're not doing that is in part because you're an extrovert, right? So you don't have an epistemology function first. You don't have TI, FI, SI, or NI. I mean, it could be that case, right? There's somebody here probably who barely said anything, and all they're doing is reading the things and looking for ideas that are useful for them. Okay? So you could be engaging like that. When I'm reading what you say, I'm looking for things that are useful in clarifying what the truth is. All right? Because I'm TI tool function. But when you use words and you read the words, you're looking for things that either agree with you or disagree with you. Because you're using FI deliberation, not TI. You know, and so the thing is with SE and FI, it means you are using extroverted intuition as a means of enabling your extroverted sensing. That is to say, I'm going to engage with Eric. I'm going to get Eric, the guy on the screen, to talk up to me, about me. All right. And I'm going to use the basic metric here of agree with me, disagree with me. And that's FI. So that's why our engagements are like this. It may seem like I'm being condescending or arrogant. Things might seem, I might think they're a little remedial, but I'm trying to actually bridge a gap here. I'm trying to get across to you what I'm saying. I don't know if it's possible or not. Which semi-serious point was still very strong? See, you sound like Trump when you say shit like that. My point is still very strong, even when it's obviously not, right? Because you can't justify unrealistic behavior by saying that's where his life is. No, I'm saying that's where life in general is, Cloud. You keep thinking that your version of my sentence is the same as my version. It's not. That should not have quotes around it. I said that's where life is these days. You know? I did say that. Actually, I did say that's where his life is. You know? But my point is, that's where everyone's life is. You know? It's no longer the case that in general, when people are bored, they're out playing Frisbee or something. So if you want to engage with people, you're going to spend a fair amount of time on the internet. If you do spend a fair amount of time on the internet, regardless, that doesn't mean you're not SE. It's how you spend your time on the internet and how you engage with those people that tells us about your cognitive functions, not whether you're here. Okay? Everybody keeps talking about CPT. I've given that guy my endorsement before. I haven't checked him out since, but I do believe that he seems like a sensible fellow who kind of knows what he's doing. To the extent that he disagrees with me, of course, I'm going to say, well, he's wrong in that spot. But so far, he seems, what I've heard from him and what I've heard other people say, he said, seems both insightful and non-contradictory to what I'm saying. So, yeah, CPT is shorthand for Compton in the song Straight Outta Compton. Just because I'm from the CPT, punk police are afraid of me. Those are the famous immortal words of one of the NWA members who sang that song. Welcome everybody to the show in which you've got to go, the place where you have to talk to everybody, the place that you want to come and talk to someone about some kind of cognitive function. Welcome to Talking with Famous People. You're the ones I'm talking to. That means that you must be those famous people. Since that's the name of the channel, it must be what I do. Stargate, Lord of the Promiscuous, any tool is here. So is Cloud. King Krishna, Summer Blue has arrived to tell Cloud you two are an ESFP. Trust me, it contradicts your theory, says IAG last. I guess he hopes to find a point where CPT puts me on blast. That would be fine, of course, cause then I'd argue I am right. Erin is here and knows an INFP. She's got her own tattoo shop and a jar filled up with pee. And also Ankin is here. He dropped the ice cream from his cone. Now he's complaining that his ice cream cup is all alone. God doesn't value my opinion, let alone King Krishna. Some of Pagu's opinions valued less than even mine, he says, and Jason Blood's opinion too is not important to Cloud. Certainly he's not an FE valuer. Doesn't think the opinions of others are much, but that's okay, that's okay. Yeah, it's okay, I'm sure. If you don't think it's okay, then you are very illegal bird. And I fourth, FI2 also screams about how it's good. Everybody everybody's falling down the exact same path. God will enjoy being an ESFP in our brains. And when he's enjoying himself, he'll be enjoying it in real life and an ESFP too. Basically, anytime Cloud is experiencing enjoyment, he's experiencing enjoyment of being an ESFP. It's true whether he's experiencing enjoyment at the movie theater or in our brains, as he said at 4:15. He's experiencing enjoyment as an ESFP. It don't matter where he is or what he does see. That's the only type of experience available to he. Cause one's type is absolutely permanent. Everybody loves you. We don't think you're dumb. You're just constantly arguing about something I'm wrong. You're insisting I'm wrong and arrogant too. I've got a habit of defending myself when someone is like that to me. I don't think that anybody dislikes you. I made several videos about your valuable contributions to the whole community vibe. God, don't be sad and don't be blue. Raphael's here and he's more annoying than you. You can definitely feel better by comparison. Now you feel lonely, don't be alone. We're here with you, friend, and we don't give you the bone. We're not making you work, we're not saying you're bad. We're just saying you're wrong about being so mad about being insisting in what I believe is true. Because of my objective nature, even though it's about you. I hope now we're on exactly the same page. If you can't understand God, you can't understand Cloud. I guess that means that Cloud is a God for understanding purposes. And air and water and fire and earth are for elements we no longer talk about science worth, but I remember. Okay, well, that was fun playing the guitar. That was nice. It made me feel like an extremely special lady, I think. Last I checked, I think that was what I felt like. I could be wrong about that. Let me put on this funk beat. You won't be able to hear it. So you might be like, well, why put it on then, Eric? Well, because I'll be able to hear it. That's why. I'll be able to play something over it. Something very, very funky. Something as funky as your mom's face. And your mom's face is funky, I tell you. This one goes on this side, and this one goes on this side. Okay. Here we go, friends. Here we go. Oh yeah, that's funky. Uh-huh. It's a beat. Oh yeah, that's funky. A funky beat to move your feet. Miggity, miggity meow, miggity meow, a miggity mew. Who wants to be sickety soup? Who wants to go over there and be boo? Me, maybe you. I don't know whether it's true, whether I have heard about you. Perhaps I have, perhaps I've not. Perhaps I've seen you in a cot. I don't know if I'm out of carbon. Doesn't mean I love those carbon atoms hovering. And I don't know if God wants more because I don't know just what God has in store. Oh yeah, that's a funky beat. I like this beat a lot. I'm gonna put it on the TV now, so you can hear it too. Oh yeah. Check it out now. That's a funky beat. What a funky beat. I'm streaming early, late, every day, all the time. Anyway, doesn't matter. Alexander Cruz is what I'm streaming. I'm just glad to see you here. Cause you choose to be here instead of at that barbecue with your dear husband who wanted you to go and have a steak or two and some corn. But you said, no, I gotta go to the live stream. Go by yourself, husband, and cry me a river. I don't want to hear any more about your bullshit, dear. And go have yourself a couple of beers because I'm here for a live stream. Gang Krishna, summer for good. Doesn't matter, cloud, cause you are avoiding the answer a different way, a different context. What you say, you're not got my time up in any way. You aren't Siddhartha's favorite person. You aren't Siddhartha's Jay. All that's best on the concept of human loving God. MC Beat Police. Are you the MC Beat Police? You don't like this beat, or you don't like my rapping? Tom Breck, you're a wreck if you don't like my rapping, because my rapping's the best, and you be crapping. Comparative rapping, not nearly as well, that's why it's crapping and going to hell. I'm a super rappy guy. I'm rapping Eric. Here, listen to me rhyme. I'm rapping Eric. I'm rapping. You can hear me rapping, you can hear me rhyme. That's what they say. I'm almost here, rapping away. Rap all along, every day. Listen to me rap, listen to me sing. Hey, he's a rapping king, he's rapping Eric. Ooh, rapping Eric, what you talking about? Ooh, rapping Eric, you're the freshest guy in town. Ooh, rapping Eric, your bars are so dank, I mean, rapping Eric, rapping Eric, ooh, rapping Eric. Listen to what you're talking about. Ooh, rapping Eric, what you talking about? Ooh, rapping Eric, you the dopest guy in town. Ooh, rapping Eric, won't you rap me some raps? I said, ooh, rapping Eric, ooh, rapping Eric. Yo, rapping Eric's got playing cards. You got all of rapping Eric's playing cards? Rapping Eric's a super cool guy. There's a cheese just named after him. Would you like that cheese? Would you like to buy some of that cheese for me? It's called Rapping Eric cheese, and it tastes just like me. Here's some Rapping Eric cheese. Ooh, rapping Eric, what you talking about? Ooh, rapping Eric, you're the sexy guy in town. Ooh, rapping Eric, won't you come to my house? I said, ooh, rapping Eric, ooh, rapping Eric. Yo. I'm rapping Eric. I can rap, I can rhyme, I can get. Listen to me rhyme, shooby drop time. Let's have me rapping. And you are very impressed. And if you don't like how I rap, then you disagree that I'm the best, but that just means you're wrong about my rapping song, because my rapping's so bad that you are wrong. That's why it goes to the Grand Canyon. and says, you can't compare with me. Eric's rapping is much better, G. If you are the Grand Canyon, you're the original gangster of canyons. The Grand Canyon is the original gangster of canyons. The Grand Canyon is the original gangster of canyons. Yo, Black Lives Matter too, okay? Black Lives Matter, just like me. I'm a very, very, very whack MC. But my life matters. Just because I don't rap well doesn't mean I deserve to die. I'm a whack, whack, whack MC. Whack like a clown, whack like me. Rap like me and rap like a clown. Then you'll be whack, whack, whacking down. Yeah, I'm down with the whack MCs. Because nobody's more whack than me. I'll whack it up like whacking weed. I'm a weed whacker, whack away weed. So don't touch that DMT. Because then you'll be a weed whacker like me. And nobody want to be a weed whack MC. Oh, I'm illin'. No, you're not illin'. You're just sick. Oh, I'm sick. No, you're not sick. You just have a period of ill health. No, I'm illin' in the rap sense. No, you need to go to the doctor. You got a cold. You got to blow your nose. I'm a whack MC. I got to blow my nose. Got to touch my knees. I'm a whack MC. Hey, look, some bees. You got to touch your nose. Got to touch your knees. I'm a whack MC. Hey, look, some bees. It's just a tip. Just put the tip of the toothbrush in my mouth. To tip the toothbrush at the top. And wrap the things around the top. With a lid of floss, and then my teeth get clean, and I spit it out into the sink, and they gleam, and the mirror scene. Oh my, it's a true line. Don't touch the DMT. You gotta touch your nose, you gotta touch your knees, you gotta squeeze your heart, you gotta touch your bees, you gotta touch your eyes, you gotta touch your ears, you gotta rub your hair, and then hey now dear, you're here. You're a popular guy. Your name is Meatus. You're a popular guy. You're a popular guy. You're a popular guy. Popular guy. Everybody in New Zealand loves smoking meth. Yeah. Everybody in New Zealand loves smoking meth. If you're living in New Zealand, then you're smoking meth underneath the deck in New Zealand, and your name is Beth. Yeah, everybody in New Zealand is smoking meth. Oh yeah, everybody in New Zealand is smoking meth, and they don't know why. They can't say why. They just say after Beth, because she's the one who started it here in New Zealand, smoking meth. Everybody in New Zealand is constantly smoking meth. With the beautiful scenery. Don't matter because they're constantly smoking meth. With the beautiful beaneries. Don't matter because they're constantly smoking meth. With the beautiful beaneries. Don't matter because they're constantly smoking meth. Yo, in New Zealand, there are lots of birds. Yeah, they don't walk around. They walk around on the turds. They don't fly about. They're called kiwis, and if you shout at them, they get arrested. The force feed you meth. Then you'll be a New Zealander, I guess, and you'll be a New Zealander for life. Don't be my wife, be my friend. Don't be my friend, be the end. Don't be the end, start it now. Don't start it now, become a cow. Don't be a cow, be a horse. Don't be a horse, that's dumb, of course. Thwackage. After the long absence of thwackage, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Oh yeah. I'm not lying this time. Thwackage is a wonderful thing. Oh yeah. After long absence. After a very long absence, thwackage makes me feel like I got an abscess removed from my teeth, or my knees, or someplace else painful like these. I'm not sure. It feels so good. Like, hey, this is how it should be. Everything easy. Everything flowing freezy, breezy, fine, and squeezy. Look at these things over here, I'd say. Aren't they exciting? They used to be gay, but now they're wonderful. I love them all the time. That's not because of an sexual orientation thing. That would be inappropriate. I'll put on these headphones here, okay? You're gonna put on these headphones and hump your mom. Move around your headphones and hump your mom. You're gonna put on these headphones and hump your mom. Oh yeah, hump your mom. That's a good lyrics right there. You're gonna put on these headphones and hump your mom. You're gonna put on these headphones and hump your mom. You're gonna put on these headphones and hump your mom. Oh yeah, hump your mom. Those are good lyrics. Okay. I'm going to rap about eating meat. What kind of meat you want me to eat, Raphael? The kind of meat that I meet in the street or other meat? Treat me to an answer, please. Rap about eating meat, says Raphael. I'll rap about meat and meat. Fine, 12. I'll rap about having some cow and some chicken and some pig. Those are my favorite three. Anyway, ignominy ensues. If I eat something other than those few, I don't like fish after all. If God exists, he wants me to eat a hamburger, I guess, because it's so delicious. That's why I eat them so much. If God exists, then he wants me to eat a cow, chicken, and pig, and this fish maybe occasionally, if it's a particularly good day for fish, maybe fresh, right out the ocean, in a dish. Cook it up, lemon and tartar sauce with a little bit of then maybe okay some fish. But most of the time, this is the ish, just chicken and pork and beef, of course. Can't forget about the number one thing. Beef is the number one thing. My dad sometimes suggests I have vegetables, of saying, hey, Dad, I'm having beef. That's a vegetable. Geez, it's just been processed into protein form. Makes me wheezy to imagine eating corn. I can only eat meat, pork and pork. Only eat pork and chicken, beef, of course. Only eat chicken and pork and beef, boy, because I like chicken and pork and beef pork. As I like chicken, I like some beef. I don't mind pigs because they're good to eat. I don't really like those fishes indeed. And other animals, I can just let them be. I'll eat myself another burger. I'll have the same thing again. I don't need to try a bunch of weird new shit because that's for some other kind of men. And I don't want to eat anything that is not familiar to me. SI in the forethought. See? How do you know evil exists? You kill chicken every day. Isn't that evil? You kill porks every day. Isn't that evil? You kill da-da-da. Isn't that evil? I don't kill any of those things. I merely take advantage of their other people killing those things for me. I don't want to kill them myself. It's much easier to eat a lot of meat when somebody else kills and cuts it up for you, see? Then it's not so depressing. Gee, wait, I can just pretend it came out of the hay. Straight, without an animal in between. Just went straight from hay to meat, see? That would be easier for me morally, perhaps. But, of course, there's no negative obligation because animals don't have a right. Because they can't consent to things, can't make informed choices. It's night time, and they're the same as in the daytime, which isn't relevant, but it rhymes, so I put it in there anyway. Something about night and day. Anyway, what was I saying? Right. Animals can't have rights because animals can't own shit. And ownership is a precondition of claiming ownership rights. All rights follow from the rights to the own body. Okay? Because everybody's born owning their own body. Everybody's born owning their own snotty. Everybody's born liking the character Scotty from Star Trek. Everybody's owning their own body. All rights follow from that. Animals can't make ownership claims, so they're in right land fat. No good for them as far as rights go. They don't get to have any, you know? It's true. Destruction ain't always evil, and death ain't always evil neither. Violating negative moral prohibitions is the only thing that creates such either. And that thing you could say is universally a negative that you should avoid every day, but don't worry about that because there's also positive attack. There's a positive moral indication as well, but that's non-universal. That's special. That's healthy to have a particular one and not worry about everybody else's on. But on the other hand, on the negative hand, you better listen to the land. You better obey everybody else's rights if you want them to respect yours type. Otherwise, they could violate you. And how would you complain about it? You too did the same thing. Fair is fair after all. That's defensibility at the mall. Why can't you steal something from me? Because if you stole something from me, I'd have to steal it from you, G. If I did, then it would be free. Nobody could make any claims to anything. They just take the stuff when they feel like it left and right all enough till nobody had anything. Everything was broke. Nobody cares for that which they do not own. Slavery was not justified because of ownership, because, remember, Jason Blood, all rights follow from the fact that each individual human being is born owning his or her own body. Slavery is a violation of that axiomatic principle. Therefore, you cannot own a human body except your own. Nobody can own a human being. Logically, also morally. Logically, no one can own a human being because your will is not something you can sell. You can guarantee a promise to use it certain ways, but you cannot sell it at all hell because your will is something that only you apply. It's a definition of the difference between you and I. It's the distinction between ontologically us and them. You're wrong. Jason Blood says his point is that Jason Blood says whatever system of rules we use to claim our legitimacy, they can never be objective. That's not true. That's not true. You're not making a good distinction between objective and subjective. What's an objective system? It's a system everybody can analyze independently of everybody else, draw their own conclusions. Gee, the data is objective is one component of objectivity that we have to consider, bro. Okay? So that's one thing. Note, it doesn't matter why human rules are made. It doesn't matter that human rules are made by humans. Of course, human rules are made by humans. What rules could we talk about that aren't made by humans? Rules are a function of language. Language is a function of ownership rights, like everything else that matters tonight. You see, you can't have ownership rights without laying claim to owning something, and you can't lay claim without having language. So rights are exclusive to that which has language. Once you can lay claim to ownership rights, then you have an obligation to observe the rights of others and respect them and not violate them at all. Since we all agree that everybody owns his or her own body and not owned it by another person, because that's slavery. If you agree with that, then objectively, G, we can deduce everything else that I claim. It follows logically from that axiomatic hey. But if you don't agree with that axiom, then it's true. If you don't agree slavery is always bad, then I can't universally deductively prove to you that all negative rights are universal. But if you do agree that slavery is morally bad, then I can prove to you that all negative rights are universal. So it sounds like Jason Blood has a choice. He can choose to side with slavery, or else he can choose to side with the alternative, which is that negative rights are universal. Biz, I don't think you want to say that you side with slavery, so hey, you might as well agree with me with the negative rights being universal and the positive rights particular, don't you see? I still remember what I said. Nothing's wrong. It's all in your head. I'm Cloud. And your words don't matter. And his words don't matter. And my words in a bladder. I peed on the sidewalk. See? No, I didn't. My words don't matter. See? Because whether or not I did pee there, it's the same either way. Because fair is fair. And words don't mean anything. My urine is the same as my spleen. My spleen is the same as my nose. My cat is the same as your hoe. My hoe is the same as that dog. That door is the same as a tree. And that tree is the same thing as me. Because words don't matter at all, G. I'm Cloud. I'm rocking the feelings, subjectively. I'm Cloud. Experience tells me everything I need to know, not words, not meanings, not ideas, and not stuff that people talk about back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, making progress. No, instead it goes north, south, east, west, all over the direction of the map. Everywhere from here to there to that. And why? Because, of course, he wants to engage, and we welcome him to. You're welcome to engage with us, friend. We'll engage in a cage with a sage, and the sage will tell us stuff. We'll ask him questions like, why are you called a sage but not a guru? Is there something I don't know about Yoo-hoo? Did Yoo-hoo you drink and make you go from a sage to a thinking man called a guru who thinks in the spot about stuff important to everybody a lot? Or I don't know. Can you please explain? Because I'm confused. Here you go, kitty. Okay, that's enough rapping. That's enough music. That's a lot of music. That was a lot of fun, actually. I like doing that. I like making fun raps about whatever I want to and crap. Who would like to rap with this? It's a good beat to rap over it. I could find the link to it, I guess, and then I could put it here and you could rap at home or do your best to tackle the thing that I'm doing. It's not difficult if you were struggling. It's not difficult. The package, at least, it's more difficult without it, but not necessarily. Depends on your mood. Right now, I'm in a comfortable mood. I'm feeling like a comfortable groove. I don't want the functional mood. Bam, benedict, then bam, bam, benedict, then bam, bam, benedict, then bam, benedict, da, bam, benedict, da, bam, benedict, da, bam, benedict, da, bam, butter, badita da, butter, bam, benedict, da, bam, benedict, da, bam, benedict, da. Here's the thing I'm rapping over. If you want to play at home, you can rap over this. It's a fun beat to freestyle over. It's just some YouTube beat. Anyway, I think I'm gonna wrap it up, everybody. Have a great evening. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese. And if you do forget to eat plenty of cheese, eat twice as much next time. I'll be back again soon enough, I'm sure.